Hey, it's me, MLB! Here is part 7 of Heavy Training. Enjoy! When you woke next, which you then realised that you had also succumbed to sleep, and somewhere in your subconscious state you'd fallen onto Aizawa, and he'd placed an arm around you too. It was such a comfortable place to be that you tried to will yourself back to sleep just so you could continue to have his arm around you. But your waking also roused him, and he opened his tired eyes and looked at you, just as you were sitting up. Quickly realising that he had put his arm around you at some point, he took it back to his side and cleared his throat. Apologies, he rasped out. No, don't apologise, you replied. I liked it. There was a moment where he looked like he was about to say something, but Eri woke with a start and jumped with fright when she saw that she wasn't in a familiar place. She immediately calmed, though, when she saw both you and Aizawa beside her. Good morning, Eri, you greeted her. Hello, Mum, she said sleepily. Then she realised what she had said and froze for a second. I had a dream that, Mum, Tears welled in her little eyes, and you reached across and patted her on the head. It's okay. Mum's fine, you said with a soft smile. Aizawa was watching the whole interaction, his cold heart being warmed. This was what he wanted. He had had long enough a time to think about it now. I need to go, Aizawa said suddenly, standing up from between you both and making Eri fall into his sudden absent spot. I'll be back after I've filled my reports from my shift, he said. I won't be long. You and Eri both said a short goodbye, and he left, and you wondered if he was backpedaling since Eri had mentioned you as her mum. Didn't he say that's what he was considering, you all as a family? Had he meant you or someone else? Now you were stressed. Yin? Eri asked, shying away from calling you mum again. You looked at her, still with a worried look on your face. Why have you got the lines? She asked. The what? You queried, still with a scrunched, worried look on your face. These, she asked, reaching up to your forehead and putting her finger on your frown lines. Oh, you said, relaxing your face. Don't do those, she reprimanded softly with a little fear. That means you're not happy. Oh, sorry, Eri, I was just thinking of something that made me worried, but I'm okay now, you said, giving her a smile. Was it me? She asked sadly, looking down at her hands. No, of course not. No, it wasn't you, you said. Oh, okay. I don't want to be the reason that you're sad or worried, because I like you and I want you to be happy. I am happy, I promise. Sorry, I won't make the face again. Promise, you said, patting her head. Can I have a cuddle? She asked, scooting closer to you. Of course, you said with a smile, opening your arms to encourage her to come in closer. She needed that reassurance. You kept Eri with you for the rest of that morning and fed her some breakfast. You were looking forward to seeing Aizawa again, though. You still had so many questions to ask him, especially that one about him thinking about a family. It was around mid-morning that he knocked on your door again, and you greeted him warmly and invited him in. Eri, he said as he walked into the lounge area, where she was sitting watching TV again, with your mummy blanket over her lap and her little blanket clutched in her hands as she looked from the TV to him. It's time to go now. Oh, she said sadly, but obediently got off the lounge and walked over to him and gingerly grabbed a hold of his pant leg. Say goodbye to Yin, he said as he put a hand on her head. Can I see Yin again? She asked softly, her big eyes pleading up at him. He glanced at you, and then you looked down at her. Definitely, he said. Then he turned to you. I'll take Eri back to the UA, and then I'd like a training session with you. Oh, yes, sure, okay, you said with a mechanical nod of your head. Then you turned your attention to Eri. I'll see you again, Eri, I promise, you said, as you crouched down to her level. Without warning, she jumped into your arms and almost knocked you backwards. With a surprised chuckle, you hugged her tightly and stood up, still cuddling her little body. I really like you, Yin, she said softly into your neck as she buried her face into you. Aw, I really like you too, Eri, you said back to her, squeezing her tightly for a second to show your love of her. Aizawa was watching this whole interaction, with a soft look in his eye, and then he cleared his throat to get your attention. It's time to go now, he said as he walked past you to the door of your place. You followed reluctantly, still cuddling Eri, and she gripped you a little tighter as you got to the front door. It's okay. I'll see you very soon, okay? I'll come and visit you if you can't come to me, you said as you lifted her off your front and put her down on the ground. You could tell she was sad, but she still stayed strong and took Aizawa's outstretched hand and walked with him off down the path, her little head turned over her shoulder to give you a forlorn look as she left. You gave her a sad smile and a wave and watched as they disappeared off around the corner and then went back inside to tidy up a bit and get ready for your day. It was much later in the afternoon that Aizawa showed up again, and he looked like he was ready for something. You were thinking a good sparring session, but maybe he had something else on his mind? Okay, he said as he flexed his neck from side to side and then reached for the hairband that was around his right wrist, sliding his fingers through his roguish hair and pulling it up behind his head, then expertly tying it up with the hairband. It was the most mundane of movements, but damn, he looked good tying his hair up. You ready? You asked him as you bounced on your toes a few times to warm up your calves. Yes, he said, then took his scarf from his neck and wound it around his hands and pulled it tight. What are you doing? You asked, pausing for a second. I'm getting ready, he commented. Why the scarf, though? You asked, gesturing to it. I need it, so I can hold you still so you have time to listen to what I'm going to say, he said calmly, before flinging it out and wrapping it around your body and arms, jamming your arms to your sides. What? You screeched, trying to wriggle your way out of his binds. Listen to me, he said calmly, his bloodshot eyes trained on you. I've been thinking about us. He pulled on the binds and you were forced to take a step towards him. And about Eri, he continued. You eyed him. What was he going to say? You dared not ask any question at that point for fear of derailing his train of thought. Obviously, this isn't revolving directly around her, but she was a catalyst, he admitted, pulling on the binds once more to make you take another step towards him. Okay, you asked dubiously. And I will just press pause on part 7, and I will see you next week for part 8. I know you should all be used to the cliffhangers by now. To anyone that has just stumbled upon my channel just recently and are not aware of the cliffhangers, it is a very nasty habit that I have, and I'm trying to... No, I'm not trying to curb it at all. I won't lie. But I will see you next week for part 8. See you then.